Nightrein has only been out for a week, and it's already safe to say that it's failed, and failed hard. Now that might sound crazy, because in terms of sales and player count, Nightrein is killing it. But when you look anywhere in the community, it becomes clear that there are some serious problems holding Nightrein down. These aren't small mistakes. They're unacceptable failures that FromSoft has to fix now. There are 7 little parasites eating away at the greatness of Nightrein, and the first is crossplay, or I should say lack thereof. Check your calendar really quick. Yeah, it's 2025. Why is there no crossplay? Do the devs not know how to do it? Do they even know it exists? I'm sure with 99% of games, there isn't even a conversation as to whether crossplay should be in it or not. It's universally agreed upon that if you have a multiplayer game, you put crossplay in it. And yet here Nightrein is in 2025, the year of our Lord, without crossplay. This is by far one of the most common complaints I've seen, and it's super understandable. Not only do you have to have 3 friends who are into these games to play Nightrein, you also have to make sure they're all on the same platform. This is causing so many players huge problems, and has dragged the Nightrein launch down so much. I bought Nightrein on Xbox, but the only friend I have who's into these games plays on PlayStation. So after I paid $55 for the deluxe edition on my Xbox, I had to dish out $40 more to get it on PlayStation, as well as a monthly fee of $10 so I can play online with him. And I did all that to have to start all over again with no relics and no build, having to dive in with my friend on a totally new account. And so many players can relate to this exact same struggle. Not all people are fortunate enough to be able to buy a game multiple times, so they can have the nightfaring experience that they deserve with their friends, and much less are able to buy a whole new console. Again, let me remind you, all of this could be fixed by implementing a feature that has become the standard in games now. Yet one of the most loved and respected game companies, known for innovating and putting quality first, didn't even consider it for their multiplayer-based game. What the hell, FromSoft? The next big issue is queue times, and oh boy is this a big issue. Let me be straight up. This game has almost 200,000 players on Steam alone at any given minute. How in the world are the queue times so long? For such a popular multiplayer game, it makes no sense that some people are waiting 20 minutes to get into a game. And apparently, the only fix is to queue with a full squad. Do you think I would be queuing for random games if I had a full squad? This problem has gotten so bad that there's news articles being made on this. Imagine your queues being so long that a journalist dedicates a whole article to it. That's insane. The director has come out and said again and again that this game is designed for a 3-person team. So if that's the case, these queue times being so long is downright unacceptable. There are a few things they absolutely needed to get right, and this is one of the biggest ones. It's gotten so bad that they have guides that help you cut down your queue time. Why do I need a whole tutorial to figure out how to get into the game? General queue times are terrible, but when you're trying to do a remembrance, the queue times get absolutely absurd. The queue times are so long that there are people online that legitimately believe matchmaking is disabled on remembrance quests. Yeah, when you have a remembrance active, it lets you start the expedition and clearly tells you it's looking for players. But it's taking so obnoxiously long that the player base is second guessing whether matchmaking even works with remembrances. I think GTA 7 is gonna be out by the time I finish my Iron Eye quest. Maybe it would help if FromSoft added something that would put the entire player base in one matchmaking pool. I wonder if that's ever been created before. But jokes and sarcasm aside, you can't even play the game half the time, because the matches take years to find. Like seriously. What the hell, FromSoft? But while you're taking 7 hours to find a game, why don't you leave a like and subscribe to Through the Fog? We make the best content to watch while looking for a Nightrein game. I'm talking consistent quality Soulsborne content straight into your veins. And if you wish to support us in a higher capacity and guarantee we see your message, then go ahead and drop a super thanks. Any amount is appreciated. The third parasite dragging Nightrein down is the fact that fighting some of the Night Lords, the big bosses at the end of a run, suck for a multitude of reasons. For one, some of them are terribly designed. Like, why does the Augur even exist? They put a boss in the game that flies around for almost the entire fight, so melee classes are useless. Which, let me remind you, is 5 out of the 8 classes in the game. So you're either running 3 Iron Eyes, or waiting for him to fly down every 2 to 3 business days. There should shouldn't be any boss in any game that makes most of the classes in the game completely useless. And yet, in Nightrein, they did exactly that. It's so disappointing and annoying, seeing the creators of some of the best bosses in gaming produce this slop. And another thing taking away from the Night Lord experience is the way stamina's handled in these fights. You watch a Night Lord fight, and you start getting Elden Beast flashbacks with the amount they run away from you. I have whole fights where I'm chasing after the boss for most of the encounter. I legit can't even get close enough to hit it, and it's made way worse by the way stamina's handled in these fights. When sprinting, it consumes the same amount of stamina that it would in a normal fight. When the Night Lord arenas are as big as they are, and the bosses frequently run across the arena, the amount of stamina you get isn't enough to do anything. This needs to be fixed by making it so that sprinting doesn't consume any stamina when the boss is a certain distance away from you. This would make it easier to close the distance, and make you less open to attacks when running to the boss. But things like this should have been accounted for beforehand. You only have to play a boss fight once to know it's an issue. The Night Lords are another thing they had to do good. These guys are supposed to be the climax of every run, and with these questionable design decisions, some of them are an absolute slog. What the hell, FromSoft? What else do you think would be absolutely essential for a multiplayer game? Something that absolutely needs to make it in without exception, especially in a game as challenging as this. Literally any form of communication to your teammates. There aren't labeled markers, voice chat, or anything to effectively communicate with your team. The fact that they didn't add anything even close to this is insane. Other games have already come up with good features for this. All FromSoft had to do was copy them. But no, it feels like there are loads of things missing from Nightrein that aren't mistakes or shortcomings. There are these super no-brainer features for this sort of game that didn't make it in for whatever reason. These are such massive oversights to be making. Like, seriously? No voice chat? They actually didn't include any form of deep communication in a game that's essentially exclusively co-op. The bright side is that they can add some variant of these features with an update, but it should be obvious that these needed to be in the game from day one. I don't know how nothing for communication was implemented besides the crappy markers we have now. It makes me want to say, what the hell, FromSoft? Speaking of essential multiplayer features, another thing I see everyone complaining about is the fact they don't have duos in the game. It's been announced that it's coming later, but it actually makes zero sense why there wasn't this capability at launch, and all the reasons we've been getting for it has been pretty dumb. Whenever the director was asked why there wasn't a 2-player option, he would always say that the game is designed for 3-player groups. And to that I say, why does solo exist then? Anyone who's played solo knows that it definitely isn't optimized. It's way harder than playing in a group, so it doesn't make any sense why duos don't exist. If it's gonna be a lot harder, I'm fine with that. I want to take on the lands between with my homie, and if they wanted to make it a little more optimized towards duos, I imagine they could lower some health bars, increase the rune gain, and we would be fine. But as I've mentioned before, I only have one buddy into these games, and it feels super dumb and unnecessary when we have to find some random person to start a game. Me and my buddy are communicating, and have this whole plan laid out, while this poor rando has no idea what's going on. It adds so much friction to every run that shouldn't exist. Some people have a very reasonable aversion to playing with random people, and the state of this game's launch has made those people completely pass on this game and soured the experience for others. Me and my friend were so hyped for a multiplayer Souls experience. We were sending each other memes captioned, "Me and bro walking into Nightrein." We actually thought this would be the multiplayer Souls experience, and the reality was that every game we have some random we have to babysit. There are so many others that had that expectation of a 2-player Souls experience, and to have it crashing down for seemingly no reason feels so frustrating, and especially because they backpedaled and ended up announcing that they're adding it. If it was that easy, it should have been in the game at launch. What the hell, FromSoft? But there's an issue so big that it could single-handedly sink this entire game, and somehow I'm not hearing anyone talk about it. The unspoken elephant in the room is the terrible roguelite mechanics. Whenever you end a run, you get relics that give you buffs in all games. That's the only thing that makes it roguelite, and the relics honestly don't change that much. It feels like FromSoft was afraid to make you too strong, but anyone that's played a roguelite knows that one of the best parts is mastering the game's systems and making a broken build. What I would have expected from the relics is much more significant buffs, like way higher damage increases, changing character abilities in huge ways, and especially new starter weapons. Why can't we change the weapon we go into the game with, or get upgrades for our current ones? It's actually such a missed opportunity. If we could change that, it would give us a solid jump in power from game to game. And if there were multiple different abilities for each character you can activate by setting relics, that would be so cool too. But as it is, you can almost entirely ignore relics and be completely fine. I would know. When having to start again on the PS5, I did Tricephalos in one try without any relic. I was so shocked at how normal I felt without my relics. On Xbox, I had put all this time into building my Executor and making him as strong as possible. But when I switched over to PS5 and lost all that, it felt like I was just as powerful as I always was. I know making it a numbers game would defeat the purpose of a Souls-like in a lot of ways, but roguelites are literally number games. So either lie in your grave or stop digging it. We're not gonna halfway pretend to be a roguelite game like this. We should be able to make a busted relic build and have larger parry windows for Executor and get their charges faster. Hawkeye should have one that makes his weapon's special ability his normal shot. Wilder should have modifications to his grapple hook that sends you flying to the back of the enemy and gives you a free backstab. Let's put some actual creativity in the system. You see how far I was able to take it with the ideas right there? And I'm just a guy who's writing a script in a dark room. Imagine what arguably one of the most innovative dev teams ever could come up with if they actually put their heads into these systems. There's so much missing potential here. What the hell, FromSoft? The last and final parasite that's eating at an amazing game is the pure repetition. Given the fact that the roguelite systems aren't developed enough, and neither the layout of the map nor the possible POIs change, it gets super repetitive after the third boss. You can only try out so many different characters and bosses until you realize that there isn't a whole lot being sold to you in Nightrein. It's the same stress on the same map with the same POIs. Nightrein was the perfect opportunity to add buildings and locations from Dark Souls games, but that's yet another opportunity they missed out on. There's the world events that affect the world in different ways, but the novelty of them wears off pretty fast. They don't change the gameplay loop at all. There are also random events that happen, but those come so rare that they shouldn't even be factored. And when they do, they're more of an annoyance than something that actually shakes the game up. Almost every problem on this list would be easily excusable. If I was having a great time, I would be able to easily forget all this stuff. But the truth is that after Tricephalos, you have hours and hours of the same old thing. It's a tragedy, because there are loads of ways that this could be fixed. They could adjust how many knights are in each boss expedition, make the generation more random, and maybe even give enemies in that expedition a very specific elemental weakness. So players have to hunt down a weapon with the right status effect. And all this is coming from a Nightrein lover. I seriously think this game has the opportunity to be a 10 out of 10. You can see it in the cracks of the expeditions. Whenever these problems aren't plaguing you, Nightrein is a genuinely remarkable and super well-designed experience. But even though the game has these glaring issues, there almost isn't a single one of them they can't fix through an update. But a lot of these oversights make me wonder what the discussions of this even look like. There are loads of essential multiplayer features missing, and something as huge as that seems super out of character for FromSoft. But we probably won't ever get the answers. So all I can say is, what the hell, FromSoft? If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Let's hear your thoughts on Nightrein in the comments. And if you like this video, you should click the one on screen to see the worst deaths in Elden Ring. And until next time, I'll see you through the fog.